Good evening. What's up? How are you doing? Any question, any issue, any concern? Is there something that you want to talk about before we begin? So, you notice that we are talking about reasoning based questions in reading comprehension. And among all the reasoning based questions, there is one particular question type that actually gets asked quite frequently, and that question type is inference based questions. So, can you tell me the question stems that have been asked in the exam indicating that we are facing an inference based question? So, you remember noticing these questions called which of the following can be inferred from the passage? Which of the following has been implied by the author? Which of the following the author is most likely to agree with, least likely to agree with? Remember these question types? These are the ones that we are talking about when it comes to this particular session. So, I am going to test you on this particular ability in reading comprehension. Dexter says 2 live YT classes as well as batch class all simultaneously. 2 live YT classes, maybe. I mean, we may have some other session happening on our sister channel, and your live classes are obviously, when you are part of a batch, your live class is your priority number one. Rudra says VARC scores are fluctuating. Rudra, that's a classic sign of you're using intuition to answer instead of forming arguments to answer. So, just analyze the quality of the reasons that you use when you pick up a particular answer choice, and you'd notice that as the quality of the reasons improve, the accuracy will stabilize, it will stop fluctuating. Stop using intuition. That should help. And Dexter, batch number one priority. After that, YouTube sessions, yes. But which class is happening at 6 p.m.? I don't think we have a batch with a class happening which starts at 6. All the current batches, I mean, OMAT, yes, we open a separate slot for those, but otherwise all the current batches start only post 7. So, right now you won't have any batch which has a class. In fact, I have a class with one of the batches at 7 p.m. So, we will spend some time together and then Eon Essay Propeller. Okay, so the sister channel, yes, we can definitely have something happening there. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. So, since we are focusing on reading comprehension and inference based questions, the best way to deal with that is by attempting. So, let's go ahead, work on a passage. You go ahead, give me an answer, and after that, we will look at that passage along with each one of these questions together. Okay. Pro batch LRDI class, it must have been the OMAT session. Okay, so let's go. Go ahead, start reading it. You know, it's the first passage spread over 3 slides. Let's begin our work. Let me know once you're done reading it. Ten seconds and I take you to the next slide. Okay, next. 10 seconds and I will shift you to the next. And here is the last slide. All right. So with that, let's get into our questions. Here is your first question. Go ahead, share your answer. Tell me आप इन चारों में से किसे choose करना चाहेंगे? You have 90 seconds. Let's start. Okay. So Kabilan is choosing option D as his answer. Anyone else? B. So we have 5 seconds to go. Kabilan, that's okay. We can work on that part together. The language was definitely difficult. No doubt about it. So B or D, these are the two answers. Okay, C as well. So B, C or D have been picked up by you. Here is the next question. Why don't you answer this? Okay, so Kabilan, that was quick. You took barely half a minute to answer this. Right or wrong, we'll of course go ahead and check that in a little while. Last 20 seconds. So A, B, C. कित्थे गया C? And with that, let's now get into our last question based on this particular passage. Shoot. That's question number 3, after which we will start our discussion. Okay, let's go ahead and check this. So A, D, A, expert movies clips 6500. Good to see you too. Do share your name as well so that expert, it simply means that we need to just level up our skill. Okay, so move ahead in a systematic, planned manner, and that should definitely help. All right, so A, C, D. So for each one of these questions, I noticed that we've gotten 3 different answer choices chosen, and some of us obviously struggled with the passage. Was this passage an easy one to read? Not at all. So the difficulty in this passage comes from 2 counts. Count number 1, the language. Not easy. There were words that were not exactly run of the mill. The sentence structures were also not very everyday. And then second was the subject matter, philosophy, that can potentially stump some of us. Okay, so let's go ahead and start reading this and we'll interpret it together. So let's start. Contemporary events appear in ever shifting configurations. Okay, so what is it that we are talking about? We are talking about contemporary events. What are contemporary events? Events that are happening around us nowadays. So these events appear in ever shifting configurations. What is a configuration? Configuration is how something is arranged, right? So if I order, let us say, a table from IKEA, they don't send me a table, they send different parts of a table along with a diagram that tells me how everything needs to be connected to one another in order to build a table. The configuration. Similarly, right now I'm in a studio where I have a sofa to my left. There is a lectern to my right. Okay, so and then of course there is this screen behind me. Can I swap? Can I shift the lectern to my left and sofa to my right? Yes, that is another configuration possible for this room. So when you say contemporary events appear in ever shifting configurations, you're saying that there are a lot of events happening in the world around you and their configurations are shifting. So what exactly would be configuration? The sequence in which they appear or the impact that they have. Maybe there are certain things which are shifting. Then next, they seem to be entirely contingent. Their amplification on the global scale dependent on how many people are paying attention. So see, contingent basically means dependent, right? So you're saying these contemporary events depend, their amplification depends on how many people are paying attention. So amplification is increase. So a contemporary event will go to a large number of people or not is a function of how many people are paying attention to that event. So for instance, we had a protest recently, a very famous one at Jantar Mantar. right? Was it the only protest happening in the country on that particular day? I am sure no. I am sure there must have been quite a few other protests happening in the country on that particular day, as on that particular day too. So why is it that one event hogged the limelight, got amplified, and the others could not? Others were not? This paragraph says that it is a function of how many people are paying attention to that event. So if a larger number of people pay attention, that particular thing gets amplified. So we are basically hinting at the algorithm of social media. If a large number of people interact with, let us say, an Instagram reel, that reel will be subsequently shown to an even higher number of people. So it will get amplified, right? Then the vicissitudes of spotlighting various events are daily, if not hourly. Okay, vicissitudes basically means the ups and the downs. You notice our life does not remain constant. We have good days, we have average days, we have bad days. So vicissitudes of life is this forever changing nature of life where you have your ups and downs. So similarly, vicissitudes of spotlighting. So whether a particular event remains in the spotlight or not, that particular aspect changes daily, if not hourly. So it's possible that there is an event that is in the spotlight right now and a lot of people are looking at it. A few hours later, it can vanish from the minds of the people. So we are saying that this ups and downs of the spotlight on contemporary events are daily, if not hourly. So all it says is that these events, which event is spotlighted, which is not, that keeps on changing at daily basis, if not hourly basis. So something that was the focus of attention yesterday may be forgotten today. Think of a meme that was popular, let's say last week, but now you've forgotten about it. Happens, right? Not only that, now look at the next. A massacre and a wardrobe malfunction are put on the same level of intense scrutiny. So what is a massacre? A massacre is an event where a large number of people are killed. And then a wardrobe malfunction is some celebrity, maybe a button of their shirt breaks and you're able to glimpse their private parts. That kind of a thing is called a wardrobe malfunction. So death of multiple people, killing of multiple people is equal to a wardrobe malfunction. I mean, look at it logically. Killing of a large number of people should be higher on priority. But this sentence says that, nah, yaar, we live in a world where they are put on the same level of intense scrutiny and curiosity. People look at both of these things equally, with equal intensity. Scrutiny, curiosity, attitudes that just as quickly latch onto another object. And you are looking at it today, but then you may stop looking at it tomorrow. The throwback to the previous sentence. As a result, vital issues flash by before our eyes, only to be displaced and buried under piles of trifling matters. So he's saying in the world around us, important issues appear in front of us and then they move out. In fact, more often than not, we are looking at trifling matters. Trifling matters are very small, inconsequential matters. Matters that we should not even bother ourselves with. So on the whole, all it says is that we live in a world where what the world spotlights keeps changing daily, if not hourly, and what the world spotlights may not even be an important matter. In fact, more often than not, the non-important matters, the trivial, trifling matters are the ones that end up gaining importance. Right? Okay, next paragraph. In my book, Dump Philosophy, I treat these phenomena of the information age as part of a global dump. So all these events spotlighted is saying it's a global dump where all qualitative differences are erased. So see, massacre and wardrobe functions, are they equal? No, one of them is more important. the other one is less important, in fact is irrelevant for your life and mine, but all these differences of quality get erased. And what exactly is happening? Where the nihilistic attitude of generalized indifference rules the day. So he's saying that people have an attitude of indifference. That is, they don't really care about those events. Now, on top of that, we are seeing that this indifference is generalized. So it is not that we are indifferent to items from only one specific aspect of life. We have become indifferent to everything in general. And then we are saying we have a nihilistic attitude. What exactly is this? So, there is this particular philosophical ideology that is known as nihilism. So, what is nihilism? Nihilism is the belief that all values are baseless. All values are baseless. Nothing can be known or communicated. Now, come to think of it, you, me, the two of us, we live in a world where we believe in something, right? You are here attending this lecture because you believe in education, because you believe in this fact that if you become better, if you acquire better education, it is going to lead to a great career. A nihilist, on the other hand, will have no belief. He'll say that every social convention, all the traditions, all the social institutions are absolutely meaningless. So, nihilistic attitude, where we not only are indifferent, we do not believe in anything that happens in the world around us. So, nihilism is often associated with extreme pessimism and a radical skepticism that says that even the existence is meaningless. So, a true nihilist would believe in nothing, have no loyalty, no purpose other than perhaps an impulse to destroy. So, it's usually associated with the Friedrich Nietzsche. So, if you read Nietzsche, you'd probably read such things. So, we live in a world where people are indifferent. But then, hey, what about virality? There are these things, there are these events that get spotlighted that a lot of people pay attention to. So, how are we saying that they are indifferent? That gets answered in the next sentence. Look at this. Despite peaks of usually superficial engagement, he says that, yeah, people do engage, but that engagement is very superficial. So, that does not really show that people care. They just casually browsed it. Right? Kabilan says, do we have such people? Nihilism is a very extreme ideology. There are very, very, very few people who truly believe in nothing. So, as I said, it's associated with extreme pessimism, and a very particular type of skepticism. So, most of us are not going to really belong to this category, but the author here says that that is the case. It is with a view to resist the bulldozing forces of the global dump that we need patient reflection and careful philosophical analysis, lingering with a singular event, being, or image. So he's saying that, see, the world is doing that, but you should resist this global dump. You should resist this onslaught on your time, on your senses, on your attention, where one thing is getting replaced by another rather rapidly, irrespective of whether those things are important or not. And how do you resist that? You need to have patient reflection, where you sit down and you think over a particular event in detail with a lot of patience, careful philosophical analysis with a singular event being a ring. So, do that. Now, Plato's question throughout the Republic was, so the Republic is a very famous book by Plato. Maybe you can read it someday. So, he's referring to that book and saying that throughout that book, one question that Plato repeatedly asked was, what could be saved from oblivion? What is oblivion? Oblivion is the state of being completely forgotten by the public. So if something has gone to oblivion, it means that people have stopped thinking about it, right? So what could be saved from oblivion? So in our world, there are things that people forget, but what are those things that we should save, we should protect, we should not let people forget? Which tale conveying crucial ideas such as justice, beauty, or the good would be transmitted further to others and into the future? These questions are ours too. So he's saying things fall in and out of our attention, vicissitudes from the previous paragraph, remember? So I think Plato said, yeah, what kind of things should we hold on to and transmit to our future generations? Saying, and then the author says, yeah, these questions are not really questions of just Plato. We also need to start thinking of these things so that we can save what is important, save what is meaningful. And here's the last paragraph. So now we're saying, what do we need to save? The author says the story I want to save here is that of the trenches dug up by Russian troops in Chernobyl's exclusion zone early on in their brutal assault on Ukraine. So here the author is sharing his take that, hey, there is this one story which was part of that cycle of spotlighting, which has vanished. But he says, I want to save this story. I want this story to be shared with others. So from this, we can understand that the author somehow believes that this event was significant. It involves lessons that the mankind must remember. So let's move further. So trenches. So you know Chernobyl, right? That place where there was a nuclear reactor and there was an accident that happened. So that entire area is radioactive. So when Russian forces attacked Ukraine, how many years has the war been going on now? 4 years, 5 years? For Ukrainians think it started in 2014, but if I look at the recent instance, maybe 4 odd years, I guess. Uh, so when they attacked, the Russian forces reached Chernobyl and they dug up the land around Chernobyl, and that land is supposed to be radioactive. It was foolish, but they did that. So trenches in Chernobyl may appear as one of those peculiar shards that kaleidoscopically and only momentarily make up the category of current events. Shard is a piece of broken glass. Kaleidoscope is that you've seen that toy where you put in a lot of broken glasses together, then you turn them and some very interesting events happen, interesting visuals appear. They're saying that these digging of trenches in Chernobyl, you may think of it as a momentary event. Still, it is imperative to think through the absurdities. That still, why don't we sit down and analyze the stupidity, the staying power, and the subterranean connections linking this ostensibly fleeting military disaster to the catastrophe that took place in Chernobyl 36 years prior. Prior is ago. They're saying, look at how this particular stupidity connects itself with that catastrophic event that happened 36 years ago. Despite the relatively quick withdrawal of the occupying forces from this place, this story is far from irrelevant. If we look a little closer, we can espy in it. In this particular case, espy will be we can see in it. Espy is to suddenly or unexpectedly see something. Unexpectedly see something. So we can see in it a strange condensation of everything that went wrong and continues to go wrong at the site of the nuclear accident. And that site in its turn condenses the modes of thinking and acting that continue to steer the world towards global disasters. He's saying that in a way, this digging up of the trenches there, even though Russians realized that it was stupid, it was dangerous, they moved out, he says it still shows the attitude that led to that disaster, and the disaster itself shows the attitude which exists even today and is taking us towards global disaster, right? So that's the passage. So what is this passage about? What is the subject matter of this passage? This passage deals with this aspect of our life where a lot of things keep fighting for our attention and they keep on replacing what is in the spotlight right now. And those events may not all even be important for us. Then the author talks. So, what does the author say? He says that, yeah, we need to stop this. How? He's talked about patient reflection, etc. and we need to figure out what kind of things we want to transmit to our future generations. And this is the author's take on what it is that he would want to transmit to the future generations. Okay, so now let's come to the questions. So it can be inferred from the passage that. So you know that when it comes to inference-based questions, we just go on, look at every answer choice and label it as true, false, can't say. Let's start. The phenomenon of the global dump will worsen in the future, can't say. The author has told us that it is happening. The author has also told us how we need to resist it. Will we be successful? Will we fail? We don't know. So it may worsen, it may not worsen. Things are bad right now. Are they going to become worse? Nobody knows. Not on the basis of the passage. B, the events surrounding the global dump reflect the irreversible regression in society, kind of connected to A. Can I conclude that it is irreversible? Not really. The author has given us a strategy to resist the global dump, which means that the author believes we can stop this onslaught of global dump, that it is not irreversible. So B is actually false. How about C? The age of information is solely to blame for the misplaced priority given to events. False. Remember that line, nihilistic attitude of generalized indifference of people. So it's not just the fact that we have a lot of things happening around us, our own attitude is also to be blamed. So we cannot say that this is the only reason behind this tendency. D, the age of information has coincided with reduced scrutiny over vital events. True. Remember, all the qualitative differences have been erased. A massacre is treated an equally big thing as a wardrobe malfunction. So, can't say false, false, true. Which one is the best answer choice for this? The option which is true is better than can't say and false. So there you go. That's your answer. Let's see. Which of the following can be concluded from the story about Russian troops digging trenches in Chernobyl's exclusion zone? Let's check. The trenches indicate how people continue to think and act in a manner that causes global catastrophes. True. Remember the very last paragraph. Read the last 4-5 lines, and this is exactly what is being stated there. So asking us for what can be concluded is another way of asking us to infer. The nuclear disaster that occurred in Chernobyl continues to harm and haunt the people in the region. Can't say. It was a bad event. Does it still affect people who live in that region? We don't know. It did affect people who dug the trenches. But beyond that, people who stay there, are they still getting affected by that place? Nothing of that sort is available. See, the trenches dug at Chernobyl's exclusion zone were meant to give advantage to Russian troops. We don't know. All we know is that they dug it. Why did they dug those trenches? The passage gives us no information. D, the quick withdrawal of troops from the exclusion zone does not mean digging up trenches was a good idea. Once again, can't say. All he says is that the bare fact that they moved out quickly does not mean that the digging up the trenches was a good idea. Maybe we don't really know whether it means this or not. So can't say, and therefore I think D, none of you anyway went on to pick up D. So A is the only one which is true. That is why A should be our answer. And the next, which of the following is not true according to the passage? So these questions, which of the following is true or not true, they always depend on what? They depend on either specific detail or inference. So let us check. We need to philosophically analyze important ideas and pass them down to future generations. Second paragraph. So this is true. We are looking for what is not true. This gets ruled out. In contemporary life, the importance of an event is dependent on the attention it gets from the people. The very first paragraph, the very first the first 2 or 3 sentences. It is contingent upon the attention. The author believes the global dump is a feature of the information age. True. Given in the passage. The trenches dug up by the Russian troops in Chernobyl can be considered a trivial event. False. The author says that we cannot consider this event irrelevant. Something which is trivial is very small, minuscule, insignificant, irrelevant. But the author calls it very explicitly in the last paragraph, says that you cannot call this irrelevant. So this is false. So which one of these 4 is not true? D. That is why D should be our answer here. Okay. So with that, let's hit pause here today. We'll continue our journey next week with some other session. You can reach out to me in this Telegram group in the meanwhile. And before I sign out, I wanted to leave you with this thought. Discipline turns ambition into achievement. So stay disciplined, keep working hard, and I'm sure that is going to make a world of difference to your scores. So that's it from me today. I look forward to meeting you guys really soon once again. And in case you are studying with me in MBA Ignite, I am going to, of course, see you at 7 p.m. where we will talk about reading speed, a couple of things that we were left with in the last class, and we'll go ahead and talk about vocabulary and how to improve it. So see you there. Take care and have a great evening ahead.